Today is August 1st, 2007. I'm Hilda Doherty, and I'm interviewing Mr. Ewell Titsworth about his World War II experience. Mr. Titsworth, will you give me your full name, please?
Ewell Elmer Titsworth.
And your birthday?
August the 2nd, 1919. I'll be 88 years old tomorrow.
That is a good thing. And were you born in Crawford County?
Yes, ma'am. Alma, Arkansas.
Alma, Arkansas. And who were your parents?
Reuben Calvin Titsworth and Sadie Ethel Trout Titsworth. My mother's maiden name was Trout.
Did you have brothers and sisters?
Yes.
What were their names?
Carmel, Jenny Louise, Burl Hugh, Glenn Wendell, and myself, Ewell Elmer.
Were you the youngest?
I had one, I've forgotten, I had one sister that she was born late. She was 9 years younger, but her name was Catherine Ruth.
Okay, well that's nice.
And I'm the only one left from my immediate family.
Oh my.
They're all gone.
Oh, so it's time we got your story.
Yeah.
Well, Mr. Titsworth, where did you go to school?
I graduated from Kibler Hella High School then.
Is that right?
Yeah.
What year did you graduate?
1938.
Oh, what did you set out for your life's work? What did you think you were going to do?
Well, that was during the Depression. I wanted to go to school, and going to college was out of the question. So I worked on the farm. We was raised on a farm. I worked on a farm, and that wasn't a very good paying job, and everything looked kind of bleak. And Lucille and I then, we knew each other. She was 16 and I was 19 when we first met.
Oh.
And it was rumors of a draft. There's rumors of a draft. A young man back then, we couldn't get a job. Wasn't available. They'd say, well, we can't hire you, you're going to be drafted. And I said, the heck with that noise, I'll beat it. So I joined the Army. And that's the reason I was in the Army when war was declared. I had joined, I was going to serve my time and get out and come home and then get a job, but it didn't work out that way.
Oh, but you got the jump on the draft anyway. Well, let's go back to the farm you worked on. Did your father farm for a living?
Yes.
What did he farm and where was that?
In the Kibler Bottoms, south of Kibler.
That rich bottom dirt, river bottom
And
dirt.
then I worked for neighbor farmers,
Who were your grandparents? Did they live in this area also?
Yes, my mother's parents was Tom and Tom Trout, and my grandmother's name was, she was Boldy. Lucinda Boldy. And
No.
Huh?
That was Titsworth.
No, my grandmother's maiden name was Boldy.
Titsworth.
Huh?
That was Titsworth.
So your grandmother Titsworth?
You're talking about Trout.
Yeah.
Yes. Who was your grandmother Trout?
Well, her name was Lucinda Boldy Trout. Trout was her last name.
Okay, now who was your grandfather Titsworth?
Reuben Calvin Sr.
Oh, okay, that's
My
pretty
grandfather,
simple.
My father was Reuben Calvin
Yes,
Jr.
okay, that's good. So your family had been farmers for generations, probably?
As far as I can remember back
Yes.
before I was born, yeah.
Miss Lucille, can you tell us where his Titsworths and Trouts came from to Arkansas? Do you recall that history?
Yeah.
You've got the history of how the Titsworth,
How the Titsworth came,
Okay.
but not the Trout.
they got coming from Tennessee to Arkansas. They was always got killed, and it didn't end in massacre except Colonel Isaac, and they captured, killed them all, but him, of course, and one daughter they captured, a little girl. I think she was 3 years old, and Colonel Isaac, being in his position, he was kind of an influential man, and he found out later that his daughter was still alive, but the Indians had her, I think, about 3 years. And he finagled to give some, kind of like today, they trade you captivity, so he done some horse trading with the Indians, and he got his daughter back. And what was left migrated on to Arkansas River and to Roseville and settled at Roseville, Arkansas, out north of Paris. That's where we started.
Oh my. Well, that's quite a story. Thank you for sharing that with us. So what was it was like 1938 that you joined the U.S. Army?
No, I joined in 1941 because I
Oh.
worked on the farm, didn't think anything I could get
For
to
the
it. Then I
meantime.
seen it was futile. I wasn't getting anywhere. It's the same old, same old.
Yes.
I worked for 7.5 cents an hour, cut spinach for a nickel a bushel, and you don't make any plans for your future when you're doing that.
That's right.
So my future was going in the Army and getting all that behind me.
Yeah. Did they send you immediately to Kansas, or which camp did you go to for training?
Fort Riley, Kansas, in the horse cavalry.
Horse cavalry.
Yeah. I asked for the Coast Artillery. When I was in the CC, I spent a year in the CC camp way back there. And when I was stationed in California, we fought fires. And I don't know what it is to fight them fires out there. And I was just a kid.
Hmm.
And so I come out. I just will be honest about it. I lied about my age. The speed limit, the age limit was 18 to 25.
Oh,
Well, I was a big old robust boy,
farm boy.
and I was 15 years old. And I went up to Van Buren to CC headquarters and told them I was 18. And they said, are you sure? And I said, yes, I was born in 1916. That makes me 18. And so at the age of 15, I went in the CC camp.
Ooh, some
And
hard work.
I worked with those old 18 to 25 boys. They left work me to death. Let me tell you, I'd been used to hard work, and I
Yes.
held up my end of it.
Yes.
So I stayed in there a year, and I'd planned this before I went to CC. So I went to CC when I finished the 10th grade, so I said, I'm going in the CCs for a year, and I'm coming back and finish high school. And that is exactly what I did.
Well,
I
good.
went to my captain in the CCs, and I said, look, that time I was 16, and I told him my plan, what I had did, and I wanted to come home and go to school. And they didn't prosecute me or anything like that. They just bought my ticket. I was in California, and they bought my ticket back to Arkansas, and I come back and finished high school.
How was it that they sent you to California to a camp?
Well, that was back in CC, you know.
Yes.
My first one up there was then. I had built Devil's Den.
Oh, you did?
And then they sent us to, I went to Little Rock and worked on those fisheries down there at Lono.
Uh-huh.
And then from there, they sent a bunch of us to California, and we was camped down Watson, had a CC camp. And we fought forest fires, and we planted pine trees on them mountains, and we killed, we had a gopher squad where we killed gophers that was burning up the fields and the mountains and causing gullies, and we really,
Just a general.
and just, yeah. And then
Interesting
when I was
career.
16, I went into my captain and told him I wanted to
Yeah.
come home and finish high school. And I think that's exactly what I did.
Did they send you to California on the train?
Boy, that's quite a deal, too, for a 15-year-old boy.
From Arkansas Hills, I would say.
Yeah, it was. It was quite a deal. I say I grew up quick.
Yes,
Grew up
indeed.
the hard way.
In those days. Okay, I'd like you to take us to Fort Riley, Kansas, and tell us what it was like during your training.
You'll get a kick out of this. See, I was at that time they were sending drafting started, and we was forming the 14th Cavalry, and they were sending in these draftees, and they all came from the east, from the Bronx and New York City and New Jersey and the city boys, and they'd never seen a horse.
Oh dear.
And they sent our horses, we called them remounts. The horses, they had turned loose on the plains in Montana and out there, and they were wild. And they sent our horses on trains back here to Fort Riley, Kansas. And by that time, I had just a little bit of rank, and I was able to pick my horse. Boy, I picked a dandy too. I never will forget him. And I named him Sir Gibson. And his serial number was just like mine, only it was different. His serial number was 078, and it was branded right on his neck.
Is that right?
And I guess I rode that old horse a million miles, I don't know.
So they always branded the Army horses.
But that was my horse, just like issuing a rifle.
Yes.
That was your rifle, and that was my horse. Nobody touched it. He was mine, and I took care of him, and I rode him. And every man, but anyway, it was what I'm going to skip to. These boys come out of the east. Probably some of them never seen a horse. And these little horses come off that range, you know, they weren't gentle. And that, you talked about a funny sight. The boys were scared to death, but they afraid to get on them. But the commanding officer said, "You get on that horse, but when you got an order in the army, you did it." And they'd get on that horse, and they'd get bucked off, and they'd have to get back off. And let me tell you, they learned to ride.
Ooh.
And I did too. I didn't like to get bucked around, but it didn't bother me. But it was
I would
fun.
imagine there were some injuries
And
over there.
then, when the war was declared, my time was just about up, and I was sitting in the day room in Fort Riley telling Lucille when I would be home. But we weren't engaged then, we just were writing.
So you were writing your
that
sweetheart.
engagement is another story.
Yeah, you were writing your sweetheart at that time.
But anyway, from Fort Riley, Kansas, war was declared. They loaded my outfit up on cattle cars and the trains, and they shipped us to Arizona. And our main camp was in the desert out from Tucson, and we had a base camp in Nogales, Mexico, over the Arkansas side, Nogales. One side is Nogales, Mexico. Arkansas was Nogales, Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
And the base camp was there right on the border. And
So the American side was Nogales, Arizona. Mhm,
That's where
okay.
we had the camp.
Yes.
But we done our, us old soldiers, we done our nightlife over in Nogales, Mexico.
Okay.
Nightclubs were better, and the music was better, and the women were prettier.
Oh my.
Yeah, I was just an old soldier then.
Sure.
And that's how I wound up down there. And eventually, the horse, naturally, mechanical stuff was coming on, the horse was obsolete, so they bursted this up. I chose the Armored Division.
Was that the period of time that they completely quit having the horse cavalry?
Now, I've often wondered what happened to old Sir Gibson.
Oh.
Oh, he was my pal.
Yeah.
I've got pictures of him. I've got them in my other. I've got another battle.
Yeah.
God, he's a big old horse.
Well, to be effective, you would have had to build a bond with your animal, and you did evidently.
We made maneuvers. My shelter when we was in the field was a pup tent, what we call a pup tent, a half tent, and your buddy had a half tent. At night we pitched that little old tent, and we used our pillows was our saddles, and our cover was our saddle blankets. Oh, we were tough.
You can be tough.
I remember when raining in Louisiana, we made 6 weeks. I was on maneuvers for 6 weeks, and I wasn't even inside of the building for 6 weeks. We had that old horse. We lived there. And that's at night. We pitch our pup tents, tie him to a picket, or tie horse to a line, a rope line. We use saddles for a pillow, a blanket cover. You'd sleep on it or cover with it, whichever you preferred. That's it.
You lived the life of the Old West for a while.
It didn't hurt. Now, it didn't hurt me because I could have done anything.
You were a young
Little
boy.
boys from town, but they were pretty good boys. And all the time I was in the Army, I never seen a boy from Arkansas.
Is that right?
Because I went in before.
But so early.
before this job.
Yeah. So what were you trying to do in Nogales? What was your purpose in being
We
there?
had orders not to let anybody cut across that border. And we, main line through there was a bridge. And my squad was camped right at the end of that bridge. We guarded that bridge. And with orders that nobody come near that bridge. We said, what do we do? You got your orders that nobody crosses that border or bother that bridge. So take it from there.
That was
Nobody bothered.
that was to prevent Japanese and German.
And you want me to tell you how Lucille got her engagement ring?
Tell me about that.
Okay, one night I was in Nogales, Mexico, walking the street, looking at the sign, looked in the window of the jewelry store, and there was a pretty little engagement ring in there. And I'm not going to tell you the price of it because the soldiers didn't have much money.
No.
And I seen that engagement ring, and Lucille was, our letters were pretty, they were pretty serious, you know. So I got in camp, I sat down and wrote her a letter. I said, Lucille, if you will send me your ring size and accept it, I'll send you an engagement ring. If you'll send me your size, if you want to, we'll get engaged, and I'll send you your engagement ring. And you know, that was the fastest reply I ever got from one of my letters. And she sent me her size, and as soon as I got the size, I went back into Nogales, Mexico, and bought that engagement ring and sent it to her. And that's the way we got engaged.
Oh, son.
By mail.
By mail. Hmm.
I ought to tell you how I proposed to her to go ahead and get married. Oh, boy.
Do you have that same ring, or have you had to have?
She has it, but she's not wearing it.
Not
I
wearing
have
it.
I finally got
it's
more money
warranted.
and bought,
Yes.
bought her another one, a little more money. But Soldier didn't have much money. I guess it took all the money I had, and I bought her a engagement ring.
So did you, from when they broke up your cavalry unit, did they immediately send you to another training field?
Yeah, they sent me to Fort Knox, Kentucky. That's the home of the Armor Division.
Okay, when did you come home to get married, or when did she come out?
I'll
That's
come to that
later.
in just a minute. So from
Okay.
there, I went to what we call a cadre. We went to Camp Beale, California, which was close to Maryville, and we, the non-commissioned officers, they sent us ahead from various places. And we formed the 13th Army Division. And all the men we got in, here comes that same old deal again. All the boys come in from the east, but they wasn't horses that time, they went in tanks, a little different. Okay, and all this time, of course, we was riding to each other. And I've been out to Camp Beale in training, I don't know, for a good little while, and one day I got an officer to come to the office, I had a telephone call. And she was teaching school up here at Figure 5, she was teaching school up there. And it scared me to death, and I thought, uh-oh, my mother's gone and my dad's gone, and I said, because nobody knew where I was at, and I had to call at headquarters to come to the phone. I had a long-distance telephone call. I picked up the phone, hello, and it was Lucille. And I said, where in the world are you at? He scared me to death, and she said, I'm on vacation, I'm down here at my aunt's, and her aunt lived down Santa Paula, about 100 miles from my camp. And she called me. And there we were on the telephone, and I thought, what in the world are you doing out here? She said, I come out here with my aunt to see my aunt. I said, yeah, you come up to see your aunt, all right. And I said, Lucille, you want to get married? I mean, right over the telephone now. And she said, yes. I'm getting close to it.
Yes, you are.
So you
And I said, you just let me make some plans. You just give me a little time here. I said, this is only once. There was a soldier and wasn't very much money. And I found out she had enough money, if I just hadn't said that, she had enough money to get for a bus ticket back home. I found that out later. So I said, you do, and California had a 3-day waiting period, and Nevada didn't. So I said, you let me see what I can do. I've got to find it. So that night I go into town, and I don't know, I must have went to the Chamber of Commerce somewhere, and I found a one-room apartment upstairs, one room, one apartment is a bed and a dresser. And I think there was another couple or two up there, and they all shared one bathroom. I rented that for a month. I paid a month's rent on that one room for a month.
Oh.
So I come back and called our commanding officer, we call him the old man. And I had a buddy from, listen to this, Lickinsville, Pennsylvania.
Oh dear.
He was my best buddy, and he had no car out there. And I said, Harmon, Sergeant Harmon and him the same rank, but we were real. I said, if I can swing it and get us a 3-day pass, will you take me and my girlfriend to Reno and we'll get married? Yeah, he said, we sure, I darn right. He said that just tickled me to do that. So I went to the old man and I told him, I said, look, I want to get married. My girlfriend's out here, and I can't get married in California 3 days away. Can I have 3 days off? Yeah, I'll give you 3 days off for that. So he gave me and Harmon 3 days off. And I called Lucille and I said, I'm trying to get off Friday, I guess. We come down on Friday night, didn't we? I said, as soon as we get off, or we leave, I got Friday, Saturday, and Sunday off. Or was it Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, 3 days past. So we would been hauling, and the speed limit then, gas was rationed, and the speed limit was 35 miles an hour.
Ooh.
And you better not get caught speeding, or you'd lose your gas rate, you'd lose your card, and you'd fine. And we drove down to Lucille at night, on Friday night, down there. And we stayed there with her aunt the rest of the night. And early the next morning, we got in that old Chevrolet coupe, and we headed for Reno, California. 35 miles an hour.
Reno,
We
Nevada.
drove all day and part of the night, and we stopped in Carson City. We had to have some sleep. The only thing we'd stop for was gasoline and a bite to eat. And we found one little old room or something there where the three of us went in and laid on the. Of course, me and Harmon used to sleeping on the back of a steel tank. We could sleep anywhere. Lucille had a couch, and of course she had to get some sleep and get ready for her wedding the next morning.
Well,
So that's
sure.
where we stayed that night, the rest of the night. We drove on into Reno the next morning. We went to the courthouse. We walked down the courthouse to the marriage license office. We got a marriage license. We went down the hall to the judge's office, and we got married. And we come out and got in that old Chevrolet coupe, and we headed for Yuba City, California. We drove all the rest of that day. We stopped in Lake Tahoe. We seen a light in the place there, see if we could get something to eat. We went in, and the lady, oh, she was so nice, and she told her we'd like to get something to eat. We was traveling, and she said, "I'm sorry, but said this is off season, and we're closed." And I said, "Well, we told her we just got married, and we had to get back to camp." And she said, "Y'all just wait a minute." And she went back in the kitchen and fixed up some cold cheese sandwiches, and that was our wedding supper. And she wouldn't charge us for it. She said, "No, and I'm not going to charge you for that." And so we come out and get in that old Chevrolet coupe, and we drove all night long. See, we had that was Monday. And I had to answer roll call at 6 o'clock on Tuesday morning.
Ooh.
So we drove all that day, all that Monday. We drove Monday night, and we got into Yuba City where we still had that room, I don't know, 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
And our camp was way out. It's 35, 40 miles out to camp. And Harmon, I said, "Harmon, don't even kill your motor." I took Lucille upstairs and showed her, I said, "Now this is your room, and you'll have to share your bathroom with these other couples, other military couples." And I said, "I've got to forget because I've got to answer roll call at 6 o'clock. Come back and get in that old coupe, and Harmon and I drive. We changed out of the uniform into our work clothes, and we answered 6 o'clock roll call."
Whew.
Now that's the way we got married. That's the way we got engaged, and that's the way we got
That
married.
was a whirlwind trip.
And we've been together 65 years.
Well, it was a good trip, wasn't it? That was worth the trip.
Well, she and Harmon sat there and sleep, and I done most of the driving.
Oh.
But we drove, you practically said we drove 3 days and 3 nights, except what 2 hours we stayed in Carson City.
You sure did.
And sleeping. She'd sit there, there's no coupe. Harmon was a big guy. He'd lay there with your head on his shoulder, and you'd sleep. Harmon was with the head against the window, and he'd sleep, and I'd
So
drive at 35 miles an hour.
Ooh. Was Yuba City the nearest city to your camp?
No, Marysville.
Oh, Marysville was.
And Yuba City was kind of like Van Buren and Fort Smith.
Oh, I see.
And so
Just the
being
river between.
I was a staff sergeant and being my rank, and so I could get a pass. I get a permanent pass, a nighttime pass. And that room in Kansas City, Yuba City, I had my pass at night. From the time I get off, I guess 6 o'clock in the afternoon, come out of training to the roll call the next morning. I could go as long as I didn't get more than 100 miles. I think it's 100 miles from camp.
Well.
You know, I couldn't go 100 miles.
Yes.
So I'd catch a bus at camp. The buses run from camp into Marysville. but there wasn't no bus over to Ewell City, so it was just like walking from Van Buren into Fort Smith. I'd walk from Marysville over to Ewell City.
Oh, my.
I walked across that bridge, and the next morning, it was like 4 o'clock, I'd set my alarm, and we stayed in that building 3 months, didn't we? In that one room apartment. I'd get up at 4 o'clock and walk across over into Maryville, catch a bus, and get back. Oh, life was pretty rough, but we
You
were
were young and having
And then we
fun.
finally found a little 3-room house, and you talk about a mansion, that was a mansion. Oh, that was I wouldn't, if I had a mansion, I wouldn't trade it now for that 3-room house.
Yeah. Well, how long did this trip to see her aunt wind up keeping her in California?
Oh, I stayed with him.
Yes, but how long was that before you?
About a year, I guess. I trained out there, wasn't it? Something like that.
So you.
We had a little board barn always.
Oh,
out
you
there.
did.
You'll pay.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
not junior. He spelled his name E-U-A-L.
Oh,
I didn't want him to be called junior. So
Yes.
I just give it pronounced, but spelled different.
Yes.
And she brought him back here by herself when I was shipped out on the train. And boy, you talk about it. But you know, it was rough. But you didn't expect anything. You had to accepted your fate, and we were together and happy as a lark.
And you
I
felt.
tell her, when you run out of money, we didn't have something to eat for us. Oh boy, she had it rough, but she come back here, and then I went to Camp Bowie, trained some more down in Texas.
So when you were sent to Camp Bowie, it was when she came back to Arkansas?
Yeah. And I went to Bowie. And Bowie I took out for parts unknown. But she stayed, come down there and stayed with us. We had them one rooms. We wasn't new to us. She found one room staying down there while I come down to see me while I was down there. Left Bill Fay, he's a pretty good sized boy. He's baby, left him with her mother. And I went overseas, shipped out.
Where did you ship out from?
Newport News, Virginia.
Oh, yeah?
I guess I landed at the same place coming back. Oh, I remember going over there. We was in a convoy. And you remember these Kaiser that built ships and they went there? But on one of his ships, they just right. And you talk about God almighty. He just throw them together and there come a storm and that ship just like riding in a wash tub. Just bouncing and we didn't know what was going to make.
Oh.
Make it enough, but anyway, and we got attacked it, and I found out later that we had a convoy of tank destroyers, which was ships that circled our convoy continuously. And so they would alert someone one night, everybody get put on your life jackets, we're being attacked. And these ships, we could hear them dropping those explosives, those sub-destroyers, drawing the water, and they were so close that we could feel the concussion down in the hold of that ship. Oh, that's the way I got introduced to combat.
Yes.
But those we didn't lose a ship. Those tank destroyers. They didn't call them tank destroyers. I forget what they did call them. And those cans.
Do you remember the name of the ship that you were on?
No, I don't. I sure don't. I just always one of Kaiser's ships.
You left Newport News, but where were you headed? Which country did you land in?
The Hard France.
Lahore, France.
I don't-
That's where you were headed.
I didn't know where it was going.
Do you recall what month that might have been in?
What
Month and year that was? Do you remember?
42 or 43, 43,
it'd be
43,
it'd be 44.
44. Yeah, I've trained a couple of years back here in the States. 44.
See, your famous born in 43,
He was.
July 43.
No, 42, was it?
No,
No, I say my memory, well, whatever.
You were on your
But
way to war anyway, whatever year it was.
See, we were pushing. We pushed across. We were pushing the Germans back, and they said we couldn't cross the Sigrid line. You know, that was a line they told me, but we did. We crossed it, and that's where I kidded you about the Blue Danube. That muddy Blue Danube. We had a pretty hot when we crossed that. Well, I don't mean from the sunshine either.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember them low banks and that muddy. I said, this couldn't be the Blue Danube. Scared to death. Oh, boy.
What was your actual job? Were you,
Tank commander.
you were commander of the tank?
I had 5. My commander, my lieutenant, we had 5 tanks in the squad, and the lieutenant was and he was command of the squad, and I was a staff sergeant. I was his second command, and he got hurt right quick. He hit my shoulder or something. I don't know just what did happen. And that left me with, I had a squad of 5 tanks.
Ooh.
They were 25 in my company. Of course, I don't know how many was in our division, hundreds of them, but my company had 25. My squad had 5, and I had charge of 5 tanks. And we wound up. I was crossing the Inn River, going into Austria. We were headed for Birch's Garden. And just before I got to that bridge, on the radio, got orders to stop, that the war was over. And I remember it was drizzling rain. Of course, the weather didn't make us any difference. It was storming. We just took it as what was dealt to us. And I got orders to halt, stop right there. And they said the bridge is blowed out in front of you, and to stop. And I thought, well, they're going to call engineers to build a bridge. We'll have to have a bridge to get across. We're going to wait. And while we were waiting for them engineers, or I figured that's what we were doing, waiting for the engineers to build us a pontoon, we come over the radio that the war was over.
Mm-hmm.
So we turned back up to we turned around and went back to the camp you call it camp, we went to bivouac, or the night before where we bivouacked. Went back to that, I don't know, for a few miles. I guess we stayed there 2 or 3 weeks. Come back across Germany and France, shipped out to come home. And I had orders to report to Camp Cook, California, and that's the reason why I got a map of where it was going to land on Japan. It was estimated, I got a copy after the war, they gave us copies of orders and so on, and showed me and I got a map of where I was going to land. And we were expected to lose 1 million, of Japan is long like that, something like that. We were going to surround Japan, and the artillery, the infantry, the tanks, and the flyboys, we were all making on Japan like it's going to be the biggest one in the world, the biggest landing that's ever made during the war. And I had a map of where I was going to land. I forget the name of that little city there. In the meantime, while we were sitting in Camp Cook waiting on orders, our tanks was already, they done moved our tanks. They shipped our tanks back from Germany down, back all across, shipped them back. Old tanks stayed just like my horse, they stayed right back down in the hold of our ships. And while we was in Camp Cook, at that time I become eligible because they released it and the war was over, and I was eligible for discharge, and let me tell you, I took it.
Yes, sir.
I took it. And
did any of your company, your unit, division have to go on?
No, none of us. It canceled everything. Meantime, Jimmy Doolittle bombed it, see. That's what ended the war.
Yes.
And I guess we sitting in Camp Cook when that happened. I don't know.
In the eventuality that hadn't succeeded, you
Yeah,
boys were
I
sitting
wouldn't be here
ready.
today if it wasn't like that. They said, well, he killed 200,000 people. Well, that's better than killing 1 million of us boys.
Absolutely.
Because we wasn't even planning on coming back if we went over there.
That's
we
right.
knew what we was going to get into. Ah, yeah.
Well, I'd like to go back over on the land that when you first touched European soil, when you disembarked from your ship with your tanks, tell us what you felt like. Tell us what the
Scared to
mood
death.
among all the boys was. What
Well,
was?
sure. The Dutch was all scared. I'll tell you one thing. If you would find out where you believe in your good Lord, or whether you're an atheist, you just get in combat and think you might not have more than a minute to live, and you're going to find out whether you're an atheist or not.
Yes.
You better believe, you're gonna call on him.
That's a good point.
So I'd say, Lord, let me go home and raise my two little boys.
Yes.
And he did.
Mm.
I'm not ashamed of that. And
No.
let me tell you, I looked down at my old tank driver sometime, I got and his lips would be moving. I said, yeah, he's praying.
Yes, sir.
I know kidding.
Yes.
And,
So you had two little boys by now?
yeah, I had two little.
No, not yet, just one. Still one, okay. And you were shut up in those old steel tanks?
Yeah.
Did that give you claustrophobia?
No, we kind of felt protected if small arms of rifle, something like that. Because I was up, my job, I was up in the turret. The other boys were buttoned up, see, and I had to keep my head sticking out. I had the lid pulled down in a periscope, but God, you couldn't see anything. And I had the guy up the driver because he was looking through the periscope.
Wow, that is dangerous.
And this boy that went with us on got us married, Sergeant Harmon. Oh, we went, when we come back, I say me and him were best buddies. We shipped out together, and we were somewhere in Germany, and it's pretty rough that night. It's just after dark, and he got shot. He had on a helmet. The bullet hit him right there in his helmet. There's bound to have been a rifle fire from us. Soldier over there, and it went through his helmet and followed his skin around his head and come out back here. And they reading the his him. They carried him back on the first aid boys. They followed us. They carried him back to my tank, and I got out of my tank to see who it was, and just my best buddy Harmon. And I won't forget that long as we live. We visited after the war, didn't we? And he couldn't do much. That's one of his side was paralyzed, but he lived. And that's just one of them. I remember him because he was my buddy.
Well, sure. What was your very first battle? What city or town was it
I
near?
don't know. We just hit patches. Wasn't any big, like a big landing or anything. We were pushing.
Yes.
And we had the infantry with us. The infantry's on the ground, and we had the big guns, and the infantry had the little guns. If something big, we'd turn them big guns and kind of make it a little safer for the infantry to move on. And we worked together.
What was your main commanding officer of your division? Who was that?
In the division, he was the colonel for the division. In my squad, when I got wounded, he was the second lieutenant. I don't know. His name was Smith. Smith is your neighbor name. I remember him, Lieutenant Smith. I think that's what it was. I'm pretty sure it was. Lieutenant Smith.
How many months were you on the ground? Weeks or months were you on the ground in France and Germany?
I don't know, not too long, 6 months, something like that.
Well, that
I
would
like
have been
some of them. I like some of
that
them.
would have been a very long time shut up in a tank.
Well, I was in the tank 2 or 3 years. That's how long to sleep, you know.
Oh.
At night, if we were out in the field, we'd dig a foxhole and call that foxhole. You know what a foxhole is. Get bombed at night or something. Drop shrapnel or something.
So most of the
We'd dig a
time.
foxhole and pull that old tank over that hole, and then we'd crawl in that hole and sleep. Oh, it looks so good. We're doing things like that.
Was that standard? Or did you?
We made a standard.
You made it. Well, it was smart thinking.
That's just something we thought of, you know. Well, some of them did that. Inside those tanks, you either froze to death or you burned up. You know. There wasn't no air conditioner, and they had two big old Cadillac engines behind us, and kind of warm in those tanks.
Well, what time of the year was it when you were in?
Well, I was in
France.
tanks a couple of years, I guess.
No, what time of the year? Was it winter or summer?
When you was
In the
I'm
tank.
trying to think. I believe it was in summer. I don't think I had any bad weather.
Summer of '44.
I say I don't remember dates or times, and I just don't remember.
Well, yes, but
No,
that's
it
But I don't remember much bad weather.
it wasn't snowing,
No,
so it was probably.
I don't believe we had any snow. Didn't make any difference. The weather didn't have anything to do with us. I mean, we just had the orders.
Just out of curiosity, what did you do in a lightning storm? Shut up in a steel tank.
Probably kept moving or something like that. You didn't pay attention to the weather unless it come at night and you were stopped. Didn't you? Then you had to get under your tank or you close up in your tank.
Do you remember any of the towns that you drove through?
No, I'll tell you what, coincident, I remember one of them was Nancy, France.
Yes.
And I had to look on my map to remember that. I went to the VA has a clinic in Fort Smith, and I was going to the VA. When you go there, checkup. I don't remember how it come about, but I mentioned that I was no soldier. I'd been through France and Germany. And she said, "Did you go through France?" And I said, "Yes, I sure did." And that doctor, Dr. Nancy, what was her last name? I'll tell her. Dr. Nancy. Boy, she come around my neck and she said, "You know, you liberated my town." Said, "You liberated us from the Germans." And she remembered us coming through there, Nancy, France. And I come back and looked on my map and I went through Nancy, France. And when we left there, she said, "Anything that you want I can do for you, you just let me know." And she followed me plumb out of that her office, out through the waiting room with her arm around my neck, and them old veterans sitting around looking at that doctor, treating me like that.
So she was a French lady?
Oh, I wish you could see it. She come around.
And that was the Fort Smith VA?
Fort Smith. She was the doctor, Dr. Nancy Heller.
She said they would have starved to
She
death.
said we were starving to death, and I remember, see, we got a candy ration that we get ration, and I remember giving all my ration candy to the kids.
Would she have been a child?
Yes, she'd been pretty young.
Oh, that's such a nice story.
Yes, she just told me, said, "Anything you want, you just let me know and I'll see that you get it." And she said, she said that I was taking a blood pressure medicine, and she gave me a prescription for a year's supply of medicine. And now I'm not kidding you. She wrote me a prescription that I send it,
Sure.
blanks, and when I get low, I mail that blank, and I still get my medicine from some of it from you.
Well, that's the only just, considering what service you did to our country. That's
But she
good.
said y'all said we were starving to death, and you boys come through there.
Were the children attracted to your tanks? Did they come
They
out?
swarm me. You had to be careful moving. I'm afraid we'd run over them. They'd come out and you get out of your tank. They just and I'd give all my candy away. And we was liberating them, and they just oh God, you just can't believe how we will. And she said, "I remember." Said y'all said we were starving to death when y'all come through there.
Did you think of your little boy back home when you saw those little children?
Every minute.
Every minute.
Every minute. Yeah, but Pete wasn't born. He was born after I come home. When I said my two little boys, I had one little one, real fast.
One little white-headed boy.
Lord, just let me go home and raise my little boy. I said, I'll do the best I can.
Yes.
Be
What-
careful about making promises like that, you know.
Yes.
But then you'll find out whether you're interested or not when you get in combat.
That's a very good point. Tell me about the destruction to the cities themselves, the buildings.
You wouldn't believe it. Just skeletons. And the airplanes, of course, they bomb in front of us, and they would use a bomb with a firebomb. And the name for it, I forget what kind it was. It gets under the skin. Just keeps burning. Only thing to do is get it under water and then raise yourself out of water and start burning again.
Napalm?
That might have been it. That don't sound like it, though. But they dropped those bombs to set everything on fire, and they set the citizens on fire, people on fire. They couldn't get. Now this is brutal, but I'm just stating the fact.
Yes.
And they jump in those canals, or people, wasn't killed, still alive, and on fire.
But our troops.
I don't go around telling that, and everything,
No.
but you wanted something. I'm
Yes,
just trying to tell you what
that's the
war-
truth of war. We want the truth of war.
What war is like.
But didn't our troops, air troops, drop leaflets warning the people ahead of their bombing?
Well, for some places what they could, but what they didn't tell the place to go. Some of them went, some of them didn't. And they talk about refugees. About you read about it, see it about these Iraqis over there. How many million? They said many of them are refugees are moving out. I've had where I feel God Almighty. Of course, I was moving up in my tank, and I meet these refugees because they knew this is going to be war in front of them. Moving out, no men, all women and little kids.
Old people.
Women and little, of course, our men was already in. Hitler had all the men and young boys in the service. And this line, I was going this way, and the refugees come back. And you'd think, that old lady there, that could easily be my mother, that could be my sister, that little boy there could be mine, that little girl could be my sister, or my kid. And there ain't but one word for it, and that's war as hell.
Yes, it is.
And you can't describe it. You
No.
cannot describe it. I cannot describe it. You don't know what fear is till you think